On a bright August morning in 1935, a car drifted off a quiet mountain road above Lake Lucerne and struck a pear tree. The woman thrown from it was 29 years old, expecting her fourth child, and Queen of the Belgians. She died on the grass within minutes. 91 years later, in March 2026, a diamond tiara crossed a banquet hall in Oslo on the head of another Belgian queen. It was Astrid's tiara. She had been gone for almost a century. The diamonds had not. Welcome back to Jewellery Pleasure. Today we're following the jewels of Queen Astrid of Belgium, the pieces she wore in her short life, the ones that vanished after her, and the ones still worn by queens and grand duchesses today. If these stories are your kind of thing, subscribe and tap the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. The Nine Provinces Tiara, the anchor. Picture a band of diamonds, low and geometric, with a row of huge round stones rising from it like points of light. That's the Nine Provinces Tiara, and in 1926 it was the gift an entire country gave to a foreign princess it had decided to love. When Princess Astrid of Sweden agreed to marry Crown Prince Leopold, the Belgian people raised money by public subscription to buy her a tiara. Not the government, not the court, but ordinary subscribers across the country. The commission went to the Belgian jeweler Van Bever. The diamonds came from the Belgian Congo, cut by the diamond workers of Antwerp, and Van Bever set them into an Art Deco bandeau built around a stylized Greek key pattern. On top sat 11 large round diamonds, around 100 carats between them, raised on slender spikes. Each stone stood for something, 9 for the provinces of Belgium, 1 for the Congo, and the 11th, depending on which source you read, for the royal house or for Belgium itself. A whole nation, mapped in diamond. Astrid, by most accounts, didn't love the original. The spikes gave it a thin, almost semaphore-like silhouette. So she had it altered. A set of detachable, interlocking diamond arches was added across the big stones, filling the gaps and giving the whole thing a richer, rounder shape. What makes it genuinely unusual is how many ways it comes apart. The meander base can be worn on its own as a bandeau. It can become a choker. It can become a bracelet. The arches go on or come off as the evening demands. Very few royal tiaras in Europe are this adaptable. Astrid wore it for the first time in public at the Bal de la Grande Harmonie in 1927, the year after the wedding. It had been formally presented to her at the Royal Palace in Brussels that February, by a committee of honor led by the Countess de Merode. She wore it to the 1930 wedding of Crown Prince Umberto of Italy and her sister-in-law Marie-José. She wore it for the painted portrait by Hermann Richier around 1934, the image most people picture when they picture Astrid at all. And she wore it one of the last times in May 1935, at a wedding gala in Stockholm, only months before she died. After 1935, the tiara passed to Leopold. His second wife, Princess Lilian, wore pieces of it, the base as a bandeau, the band as a bracelet, but never the full tiara, because she was never queen. The complete piece only returned to a royal head in 1960, when Queen Fabiola married Astrid's son Baudouin and chose to wear the full Nine Provinces tiara on her wedding day, a deliberate tribute to the mother-in-law she had never met. From Fabiola it went to Queen Paola in 1993, and to Queen Mathilde in 2013. The full tiara is reserved for the reigning queen consort alone. Since becoming Queen of the Belgians in 2013, Queen Mathilde has made the Nine Provinces tiara one of the most meaningful jewels of her reign. Yet she never wears it in just one way. For her first official royal portraits, Mathilde chose the elegant meander base alone, a refined and delicate bandeau that revealed the tiara's Art Deco beauty. This lighter version accompanied her at several important occasions, including state visits and royal celebrations. In 2015, Queen Mathilde brought back the tiara's full grandeur, wearing it with the magnificent diamond arches restored above the base. She chose this impressive version for grand gala occasions, including celebrations with European royal families and important state events. Over the years, Mathilde has mastered the art of transformation, sometimes wearing only the graceful diamond bandeau, and sometimes displaying the complete historic masterpiece. Every appearance of the Nine Provinces Tiara reminds us that it is more than a jewel. It is a symbol of Belgium's history, passed from generation to generation, and Queen Mathilde continues to write its story with elegance and grace. The wedding necklace, the bride who wore no diamonds in her hair. For all the tiaras in this story, Astrid wore none of them on her wedding day. 2 wedding days, in fact. The civil ceremony took place at the Royal Palace in Stockholm on the 4th of November, 1926, conducted by the city's socialist mayor, a small scandal at the time, and the religious wedding followed in Brussels on the 10th of November, in the Cathedral of St. Michael and St. Gudula. For both, she kept to a Swedish bride's tradition. Over her veil she wore a garland of orange blossom and myrtle, finished with a myrtle bridal crown rather than a diamond one. The effect was deliberately plain, almost girlish, for a woman marrying into one of Europe's grander courts. Her real bridal jewel hung at her throat, a diamond necklace, a wedding gift from her uncle. It's the necklace she wore at both ceremonies, and it survives in the photographs taken that week. Pictures now in the public domain, showing a 20-year-old princess about to become Duchess of Brabant. The marriage was that rare royal arrangement that was also a love match. The two had met quietly, away from official channels, and the warmth between them was obvious enough that it became part of how Belgium saw her. Within a year she had her first child, Josephine Charlotte. Within 4 she had converted to Catholicism, saying simply that her soul had found peace. She wore no crown of diamonds to marry. She wore leaves. The Stockholm pearl bandeau, Sweden's gift, and the first to vanish. Sweden didn't let her leave empty-handed either. Alongside the family jewels, the city of Stockholm gave its departing princess a tiara of its own, a diamond and pearl bandeau by the Swedish court jeweler Andersson, reportedly costing around 15,000 Swedish krona and handed over by the mayor himself. It was built in the aigrette style fashionable in the 1920s, pearls and diamonds set in platinum, and designed to come apart like so many tiaras of the period. The base could be worn alone. The central pearl could be detached and worn as a brooch or a pendant. Astrid wore it early. One of its first outings was the gala at the opera on the eve of her wedding, while she was still a Swedish princess in a Swedish city. She wore it again at the Vatican in January 1930, during the celebrations around Marie José's wedding, and there's a photograph of her in it standing beside her brother-in-law, Prince Charles. And then it disappears. After Astrid's death, the tiara passed to Leopold, and Princess Lilian is said to have worn parts of it later, the central pearl pinned on as a brooch. After that, the record simply stops. The Stockholm pearl bandeau hasn't been seen in public for decades. No museum lists it. No auction catalogue has carried it. The most likely explanation, and the one the jewelry historians lean toward, is that it was quietly taken apart, its pearls and diamonds scattered into other settings. No one knows where they are now. The Napoleonic emeralds, the heirloom thread. Some of Astrid's emeralds had been to France with Napoleon before they ever reached Belgium. As a wedding gift in 1926, her parents, Prince Carl and Princess Ingeborg of Sweden, gave her a pair of emerald pendants taken from one of the most storied jewel sets in Europe, the Luxembourg emeralds, sometimes called the Napoleonic emeralds. The stones trace back through Princess Augusta of Luxembourg, daughter-in-law of Empress Josephine, down through Queen Josefina of Sweden, Queen Sophia, and finally to Astrid's own mother, Ingeborg. Ingeborg broke pendants from the old necklace and shared them out among her 3 daughters: Astrid, Martha, who became Crown Princess of Norway, and Margaretha. Astrid's share carried a line that ran from Imperial France through the Swedish court to Brussels. She wore them constantly. In portrait after portrait through the late 1920s and into the 1930s, the emeralds appear, sometimes hung below the Nine Provinces base worn as a bandeau, sometimes paired with an emerald bracelet, sometimes with the matching earrings. At the Stockholm Gala in May 1935, she wore the emerald earrings together with the Nine Provinces Tiara, the Swedish stones and the Belgian diamonds on the same head, in the city where she'd grown up. These pendants didn't vanish like so much of the rest. They passed to her only daughter, Josephine Charlotte, who carried them into the Grand Ducal House of Luxembourg when she married. It was Grand Duchess Josephine Charlotte who truly transformed these emerald earrings into a royal signature. She wore them time and again, pairing them with magnificent emerald tiaras, necklaces, and other jewels to create some of the most breathtaking emerald ensembles ever seen in European royalty. For decades, the earrings accompanied her to state banquets, official portraits, and the grandest royal occasions, becoming one of her most recognizable pieces. Following Josephine Charlotte's passing, the earrings remained within the Luxembourg Grand Ducal collection. Today, they are most often worn by Grand Duchess Maria Theresa, the wife of Grand Duke Henri. She has chosen them for state visits, gala dinners, and official portraits, ensuring that these historic jewels continue their royal journey from one generation to the next. Among the most romantic emerald jewels of European royalty, one piece holds a very special place: the emerald peacock tiara, a magnificent jewel connected to the memory of Queen Astrid of Belgium. The story of this tiara begins with a collection of precious emeralds that belonged to Queen Astrid herself. After her tragic death in 1935, the jewels passed to her only daughter, Princess Josephine Charlotte of Belgium. Years later, when Josephine Charlotte married Prince Jean of Luxembourg in 1953, she decided to transform her mother's emeralds into a new royal masterpiece. The legendary jewellery house Van Cleef & Arpels redesigned the stones, creating a spectacular jewel inspired by the beauty of a peacock. The result was a stunning emerald creation that could be worn both as a necklace and as a tiara. After Josephine Charlotte's death in 2005, the tiara remained part of the Luxembourg Grand Ducal family's jewellery collection. It has since been worn by members of the family, including Grand Duchess Maria Theresa, Princess Tessie, and Archduchess Marie Astrid of Austria. Today, the emerald peacock tiara is not only a magnificent royal jewel but also a symbol of family heritage, a beautiful story of a mother, a daughter, and a legacy preserved through generations. Queen Elizabeth's Art Deco bandeau, the tiara that marked a son's birth. Not every jewel Astrid wore was hers from the start. One of her signature tiaras as queen had belonged first to the woman she'd married him beside. Queen Elizabeth of Belgium, Astrid's mother-in-law, owned a geometric Art Deco bandeau that King Albert I had acquired for her, a low band of diamond zigzags and lines, broken up by round diamonds and crossed by a slim laurel leaf motif. Like the best pieces of its era, it converted into a tiara, a forehead bandeau, or a choker, depending on the evening. In 1934, recently widowed and recently a grandmother again, Elizabeth gave it to Astrid. The occasion, by most accounts, was the birth of Astrid's third child, Prince Albert, the future King Albert II, born that June. Astrid wore it for several of her formal portraits as queen across 1934 and 1935, often alongside her emeralds. She had it for barely a year. After her death, the bandeau followed the now familiar path through Leopold's household before changing course in 1959, when Leopold gave it to Princess Paola as a wedding present on her marriage to Prince Albert, the very child whose birth the tiara had once marked. Paola made it her own. For decades it was her signature piece, the one she reached for again and again, right through her years as queen. And she shared it. Paola lent it to Mathilde as a bridal tiara in 1999, to Princess Elisabetta in 2014, and to her own daughter Princess Astrid for a German state banquet in 2016. Queen Paola is believed to own it still. The emerald and diamond necklace, her favorite, and the last to be seen. There was another emerald piece, and this one she may have loved most of all. When the future King Baudouin was born in September 1930, King Albert I and Queen Elizabeth gave Astrid an emerald and diamond necklace that could be worn up in the bandeau style of the day, the green stones held in frames of diamond swags. It became a fixture of her early 1930s portraits, the emerald set she returned to over and over. One of its last appearances was at a gala performance at the Royal Swedish Opera in Stockholm in May 1935, on the eve of the Frederick and Ingrid wedding, the same Stockholm trip where she wore the Nine Provinces Tiara and the Napoleonic emeralds. It was, in effect, her farewell to the city she came from, though nobody knew it yet. After her death, the necklace went the way of the pearl bandeau. Princess Lilian wore it in exile in the 1940s and as a necklace into the early 1950s. It was last seen toward the end of that decade. Then nothing. Like the Stockholm pearls, it was most likely broken up or quietly sold, its emeralds recut and reset into other pieces, untraceable now. It went to Stockholm that May with her other emeralds, and within a couple of decades it had vanished too, broken up or sold, like the pearl bandeau before it. Only the Luxembourg pieces would outlast her. Kusnacht. By the summer of 1935, Astrid had been Queen of the Belgians for barely 18 months. King Albert I had died in a climbing accident in February 1934, and his death made Leopold king and Astrid queen almost overnight. She was 28 when she took the title, already known across Belgium for her charity work and for the public appeal she launched to help the poor through the worst of the economic crisis. That August, she and Leopold were on holiday in Switzerland, driving themselves through the mountains above Lake Lucerne, near Kusnacht. Leopold was at the wheel of a Packard convertible. Astrid sat beside him, pregnant with their fourth child, a map open on her lap. At about 9:30 in the morning, she pointed at something. The view, the route, no one is sure. Leopold glanced away from the road. The car drifted onto the verge, ran down a steep slope, and struck a pear tree. Astrid was thrown from the car and killed almost at once. She was 29. Leopold walked away with minor injuries. A Swiss dental student happened to be nearby with a camera, and the photographs he took were carried by wire services around the world within hours. One of the first times a royal death reached the public in near real time, in pictures. Belgium went into deep mourning. There was a black-bordered stamp, a radio eulogy that opened with the words that the Queen was no more, a chapel raised at the spot where she died. Newlyweds made pilgrimages to it for years. She had owned her jewels, most of them, for less than a decade. The survivors, Astrid's emeralds in Luxembourg today. What vanished in Belgium often survived in Luxembourg, carried there by Josephine Charlotte along with the Napoleonic emeralds. Two of Astrid's most personal emerald pieces are still worn today. The first is a pair of emerald and diamond earrings, made up by the 1930s from emeralds her parents had given her, and so closely tied to her that they became something like a trademark. She wore them for official portraits, for the royal couple's ceremonial entry into Antwerp, and paired with the Nine Provinces Tiara at that final Stockholm gala in 1935. The earrings passed to Josephine Charlotte in 1953 and stayed in constant use in Luxembourg for the next 30 years, at galas and state visits. When much of the Luxembourg collection was almost sent to auction in 2006, the earrings were held back. They never went under the hammer. Grand Duchess Maria Theresa has worn them in recent years, including at the reopening of Notre Dame in Paris in December 2024, Astrid's emeralds, on a cathedral evening, nearly 90 years after her death. The second survivor is an Art Deco bracelet built around a large cabochon emerald, which doubles as a choker. The sources disagree on who gave it to her. Some say Queen Elizabeth, on the birth of Josephine Charlotte in 1927. Others credit Leopold himself. Either way, it came through the same near auction in 2006 untouched and became a favorite of Maria Theresa's, who wears it as a choker beneath one tiara or another, the old emerald sitting at the front of her throat. Astrid wore these for a handful of years. Luxembourg has worn them for 70. The Belgian scroll tiara, the next generation. One last tiara belongs at the end of this, even though Astrid never wore it. When Josephine Charlotte married the future Grand Duke Jean of Luxembourg in 1953, Belgium gave her a wedding present of its own, much as the country had once given her mother the Nine Provinces Tiara. This one came from Société Générale, the great Belgian bank, and was made by the jeweler Henry Koosmans. A scrolling diamond tiara set with 854 Congolese diamonds, a little over 46 carats in all, in platinum. The central diamond detaches to be worn as a ring, and the central scroll can come off as a brooch. Look at it next to her mother's tiara and the echo is hard to miss. A Belgian jewel of Congolese diamonds, given by a Belgian institution to a princess leaving for another country, almost 30 years after exactly that had happened to Astrid. Josephine Charlotte wore it for her wedding portraits and across her life as Grand Duchess. When the 2006 auction loomed, it was valued in the low hundreds of thousands, but like the emeralds, it was kept back. Maria Theresa wears it now. Astrid of Belgium was queen for 18 months and dead at 29, and for most of the world she's remembered now as a face in old photographs and a chapel beside a Swiss lake. But the diamonds she was given kept moving. In March 2026, almost exactly 100 years after a grieving country bought a Swedish princess a tiara, Queen Mathilde wore the Nine Provinces Tiara to a state banquet in Oslo, in the country now ruled by the descendants of Astrid's own sister. The same diamonds. The same 11 stones. 100 years on, still doing what they were made to do. If this one stayed with you, leave a comment with the piece you'd most want to see again, and we'll see you in the next one.